Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, my friends. Welcome back to the United Verse. My name is Bilal, and we are back with a new show. It's going to be lots of discussion, starting with the main man. You've seen the thumbnail. It is Gyökeres, who has created a stir amongst this transfer news, which has been, I think, since evening, it has been truly sensational because you know what? Everybody was expecting that Gyökeres to Manchester United was very close, but it seems that a big twist has come in this transfer move. We're going to go with the details about it, as well as we'll be discussing about Mbuemo. We do know that Manchester United are pretty much looking at premium targets in this transfer window. They need to make sure that they get back in the top half of the Premier League table. It has been really worst season for Manchester United in terms of history, and now United are looking to get some serious buys. And in for that, we'll also discuss about the latest goalkeeping situation as well. Not only that, we'll also discuss about the other two positions that Manchester United might look into, as well as the outgoings. So let's start with the main news, which has been Gyökeres. It has been all over the internet. We're going to go with the detail. It is coming straight from the horse's mouth. It is the president of Sporting Lisbon. We're going to go bit by bit what he has said basically about Gyökeres. President Frederico on Gyökeres valuation, what he tends to say is that Gyökeres, he has scored around 63 goals and 10 assists. He has got an A+ kind of a season, a very good season by Gyökeres. We will not demand the clause. Now, blackmail, insults, it's certain we will not accept. 60 million euros plus 10 million euros. As of today, Sporting hasn't received any proposal for Gyökeres. Not only that, then a big news came in that there is a news which was rocking the United fans' Twitter timeline, or you could say as well as many other platforms. It was Viktor Gyökeres' agent is currently in a meeting with Arsenal, and I mean, this is truly causing some sort of not good vibes with Manchester United fan base, because you wouldn't want to lose Gyökeres to your Premier League rivals such as Arsenal, and this is the reason that is a cause for concern for United fans. And if Gyökeres ends up at Arsenal, I think United fans are not going to be happy, because they think that he's the prime target. Remember Delap moving to Chelsea, and if Gyökeres joins Arsenal, then United will be back into that area where they don't know what they have to do. I think so maybe that United will go in for Osimhen then, if this does happen for real. Now we're going to cut back to this story from the president coming and telling about this factor that there was no agreement. Basically what happened was last season Gyökeres had kind of an agreement. It's a gentleman agreement. It's basically not written on a piece of paper. It's not something on a contract. It is more to do with when you speak to someone and you have a kind of understanding that, you know what, if I do this, then I expect this. And that was the thing which was basically reported, that Gyökeres' agent as well as the president had kind of a gentleman agreement. And now the Sporting president thinks that he has gone back to his basic principle of saying that, you know what, I've got an important asset at the club and I wouldn't want to sell him on a cheap. Now, what we have heard from him is quite simple, and it's coming from this man, Sebzao Pinto, who is one of the top guys who has been reporting on this Gyökeres deal. Now, what he has apparently said about this news is, I'm just going to translate it for you guys so that you guys are aware basically what he says. It says in this Portuguese, let me see if I can see something in that regard. I'm just trying to get that English translation, and we will do it so in a second. Google Translate, and I'm just going to translate it for you guys so that you guys are aware. And it says in great detail over here, and we just going to get it over here in a second. And for some reason it's not working, but anyway, let me get another one because I just seen it somewhere, and it basically tells about every single thing that which is happening with this deal. Apparently what he goes on to say is this is quite simple, that he says that he agreed on not selling him for 100 million euros, and he thinks that the agreement was not selling him for 100 million euros, but he never said that he would sell him for 60 million euros. What he tends to say is this, that if he has got a good season for 63 goals and 10 assists, and in that perspective he thinks that he can sell him for in between 60 million and 100 million, which is around 80 million euros. That is the figure that he's looking for. He understands that because the agent said to him that he's going to be 27 years of age, and if you ask for 100 million, then he won't be able to get his move. And that is where the problem is coming in between these two, that the player is suggesting that you had a gentleman's agreement with me that you wouldn't be asking for a lot of money, and now you have gone back to your statement and now you are asking for a lot of money. But the president says that, listen, what I agreed was upon the 100 million figure. I don't want to sell you on 100 million euros, which I accept because you're 27 years of age. Nobody would want to pay 100 million euros, but I'm not going to sell you for cheap for 60 million euros. So there has to be a figure which comes in between that 100 million and 60 million. Now, if let's say Sporting Lisbon stand their ground and they say that, you know what, we are just going to ask for 80 million euros, we are not going to budge on that value. So then United will have to think about it and think in that perspective that can they pay 80 million euros? Because remember, United need to sell a lot of players. So far, we haven't heard any news in regards to the front for Rashford, Anthony, even the likes of Sancho. So if United are not able to sell those players, then United haven't been able to get any cash. In regards to Garnacho, still no news. Any club have come up with a serious bid, neither Napoli or anybody in the Premier League. It's just been rumors. It's just been that they are still looking into the case of Garnacho. Now, I think this real interest in Garnacho will begin in the month of July, because most of the clubs are waiting for the new calendar year to start so that they can start to put in bids for those kind of players. And also other teams, they are looking for other positions as well. Like look at Arsenal, they're looking in for Sesko, they are in for Zubimendi, they are looking at other areas. I think it's a case of what other clubs want to do in terms of their business. If they have got extra cash, then they might go in for Garnacho. Remember, Aston Villa, they have to sell before they buy. Those are their kind of parameters that they're operating in this transfer window. Remember, they are the club which was reported that they were interested in Garnacho. So they have to sell before they purchase. Let's say if they are able to sell Morgan Rogers to Chelsea, then they might be interested in Garnacho. And so far, we haven't heard anything that Chelsea are going in for Morgan Rogers. We heard that they're interested in Gittins. So it looks like Aston Villa won't be moving for Garnacho until they see that one of their assets has been sold. So if Garnacho is not being sold, Rashford is not being sold, Anthony is not being sold, although it has been reported that perhaps Erik ten Hag would be coming in for Anthony. But then once again, we've heard that Erik ten Hag is looking in for Grealish. So Grealish, if he joins Bayer Leverkusen, don't think so then Anthony would be moving to Leverkusen. There might be a case that Real Betis would take Anthony up for loan for another season. Then the case comes up to Rashford and Sancho. So far, no news coming up on those two as well. So that means United have got no cash, because right now they are in serious talks with Brentford in regarding to Mbeumo. So let's say if they agree everything with Brentford and they agree on the fee with what Brentford are looking for, let's say 60 million, I don't see Manchester United having 80 million euros for Gyökeres. And we might see a case where Gyökeres ends up at Arsenal, although I think it's too early to say because Arsenal are in serious talks with Sesko. So until and unless we see a speedy progress on their side, that they are also speaking to Gyökeres camp as well, and something happens overnight, maybe tomorrow afternoon, maybe tomorrow evening, and suddenly it comes out of nowhere that Gyökeres has agreed a deal with Arsenal, and then it breaks into that Arsenal are in discussion with Sporting Lisbon. That's where the panic will start. That is where Manchester United might have to jump in, because Ruben Amorim wants this guy. He wants Gyökeres at United. He is the number one man for Amorim, and that's what he wants. I think the board will be looking at this and thinking, you know what, it's a case of what they can do right now. Somebody said that it's right now a position where United will have to bring in someone in between as a kind of a broker or someone who can negotiate on their behalf with Sporting Lisbon. Somebody suggested Jorge Mendes, who was always being used by United in order to get players from the Portuguese league, because he's got a good reputation. He has got history with all of these Portuguese clubs. He can speak, he can become a mediator and kind of tend to bring in that kind of positivity when there is a stalemate between the two clubs. Now, I do know for a fact that Sporting Lisbon and Manchester United always had a great history in terms of whenever they have been a transfer of players. Now, if you do remember, Manchester United did bought Cristiano Ronaldo from Sporting Lisbon. Manchester United also bought Bruno Fernandes in recent history from Sporting Lisbon as well. There is no suggestion anywhere that there is a bad blood between Manchester United and Sporting Lisbon. It's just a case of, I think what has gone wrong is the player was expecting Sporting Lisbon to hold on to their gentleman agreement, which was that they wouldn't come in between his transfer move to whichever club he wanted. And I think Sporting Lisbon have just done that. They have just kind of realized that, you know what, his reputation is quite good in Europe. Juventus are looking at him. Saudi clubs are looking at him. Arsenal are looking at him. Manchester United are looking at him. Maybe we can earn a little bit more. And this is what they have realized. It's a case of what kind of agreement between the player and the club is going to be. Because remember, the player has kind of said that he wouldn't want to play for Sporting Lisbon again. He is angry. He is furious. You do know that he had removed everything to do with Sporting on his Instagram profile. He doesn't want to be associated with Sporting Lisbon anymore. I don't know what it will mean for him with the fans and the club. And that kind of thing is not being appreciated by United fans as well, because that is not something you would want from a player, to disassociate himself from the whole club. I think what has happened is he was expecting far more from Manchester United in terms of he really wanted the move and he really wanted to play for Ruben Amorim. But Sporting Lisbon, they have just come in and said, you know what, we want more. And that is something which is not happening. Maybe United, what they can do is they can kind of put some performance-related add-ons into that big contract, because what they can say to Sporting Lisbon is, okay, let's say if we qualify for Champions League, we'll pay you this much. Let's say if Gyökeres scores 100 goals for our club, we'll pay you. Let's say if Gyökeres ever wins the Premier League, we'll give you a certain bonus. But then it's a case of, it might be, it might happen, it's a case of a promise clauses. You tend to promise a lot, but then if the player doesn't get those promises, then you don't pay that club. I think it will come down to the line, and everything depends on if Arsenal are seriously interested in Gyökeres. Now, let's say if PSG, they jump in because they're looking for a number 9 and they're looking for suitors for Ramos, and if they kind of come in for Gyökeres, then it will definitely turn things around, because we do know that PSG are always interested in Sporting Lisbon players. We do know that they went in for Ugarte when he was at Lisbon. It was a case of PSG went in for him, they got him, and right now we do know that Ugarte is playing for United, but he was playing at Lisbon and PSG took him from Lisbon. So it might be a case of, if Gyökeres get more interest coming from Juventus and PSG, then Manchester United will be in a tougher situation, because anything can happen at that moment. So Manchester United, I'm sure that they will be also speaking to Viktor Osimhen camp as well, but we do know that manager preference is Viktor Gyökeres. So as long as Gyökeres is available, as long as there is nothing accepted with any other club, and Gyökeres, United are going to be in for him, and it's a case of what they can get with Sporting Lisbon. So everything is now depending on Manchester United now if they would be willing to move for him. But then we know that United haven't got that much money. So let's see what happens tomorrow. And I'm sure that tomorrow is going to be a very interesting day because United are speaking to Gyökeres and Sporting Lisbon every day. They're speaking to them, I think, 2 or 3 times a day. That has been reported by Fabrizio Romano. So this is turning out to be a pretty interesting saga. Now, let's go forward. And Arsenal are working to leapfrog Manchester United and others in the race for Viktor Gyökeres. So Arsenal interest is serious. Imagine if they get both Sesko and Gyökeres, that is truly going to be pretty special. I think nobody would have been expecting Arsenal to get 2 number 9s, and what an addition he would be in the Arsenal squad. Now we're going to come to Mbeumo. For Mbeumo, it's a case of simple terms. Brentford want 60 million. I think there is an agreement between United and Brentford. The only difference in the previous bid was that United were looking something around 50 million for certain and 10 million in add-ons. But now what Brentford are saying is, you give us 60 million and we wouldn't mind if you want to pay them in installments. I think that is something which United are working at. So United can apparently bid in for 60 million, maybe less add-ons, maybe no add-ons, and that is where they can kind of agree on a longer payment schedule. Maybe they would end up paying for Mbeumo in 4 years, something like 15 million, or something like around, not 15 million, but something around 18 million every season, and that's how they end up paying the 60 million thing for him, something like that. If they can work around with that kind of figure, then they would be able to get that fee, because there is an issue with the add-ons as well. Let's say if Mbeumo scores 20 goals for Manchester United, then Brentford would be looking at that and thinking, you know what, we needed to put some clauses in his contract. If he does so and so, then Brentford should be also reaping those rewards. And I think that is what's being worked upon. And let's see how will that deal end up. There might be a case that it was reported that it has gone cold, and maybe United are straight away jumping into Gyökeres, getting Gyökeres first, and then getting Mbeumo. But now it seems that Gyökeres is a core issue for United, and if Arsenal are seriously interested in Gyökeres, then United will be solely focusing on that deal. But then the case is, are they not speaking to Brentford? I think that's not the case. They are speaking to Mbeumo as well as to Gyökeres. They are speaking to Brentford as well as Sporting Lisbon. It's a case of whatever happens first. I think Mbeumo is going to happen. Mbeumo and Cunha are for certain happening for United. For Gyökeres, if you would ask me right now what I feel, I think it's in a range of, I'm going to give you the percentage, and I think it might be a case of, because Arsenal have come in lately, and because of the president statement, I think for Manchester United, in order to get Gyökeres, I would say they have a 40% chance. Because let's say if Juventus also say that they are really interested in Gyökeres, then that would mean is one or the other club is going to put in a serious bid, and most likely that bid is going to be what Sporting Lisbon are asking for, and that would be a quick deal. And I think if Gyökeres says no, let's say if Arsenal bid in 75 million plus 5 million add-on, and they speak to Gyökeres camp, and if Gyökeres says no to Arsenal, like Mbeumo did to Newcastle United and Arsenal, then only Manchester United will be in the driving seat. Because then the player is going to raise everything that he can at the club. So that is why we have written down Victor Storm, because Gyökeres is about to go on war with his club, and he doesn't appreciate what they have done right now. They promised him something, and they are not living up to that promise. He is not going to accept that. He is going to go for the fight, and that is something which might come in as an advantage to Manchester United, because then Manchester United could say, you know what, okay, listen, you know what, we thought that we were going to pay you 60 million for him, or maybe 65 million for him. How about this? We pay to you 70, 75 million, but what we're going to pay you upfront is around 20 million, and the rest we're going to pay you in installments. And it does kind of sound that Sporting Lisbon are not going to be happy with it, but then they would think, you know what, we're not going to get 80 million or 85 million, but 75 million is close enough. And besides, the player wants to leave the club, and I don't think so they would create more fuss or trouble, and they would agree on this sort of fee. So if United agree on, let's say, 65 million or maybe 70 million and 5 million in add-ons, I think that is going to be accepted by Sporting Lisbon. So United will have to get these three players, and then I think what will happen is straight away United will go for outgoings. They will have to get rid of players right, left, and center. They will have to raise some sort of marketing PR in the transfer window. They would ask certain clubs that they need to take these players off them. The likes of Sancho, they really want to get rid of him. There has been talks with Dortmund. Dortmund have reported that there's no discussion inside the club in regards to Sancho. They appreciate Sancho. They like what Sancho has done for them, but currently he's not on the top of their list. I think what they're trying to say is, if, let's say, Chelsea come in for Gittins, and if Gittins is moving to Chelsea for 50 million plus, then maybe perhaps Borussia Dortmund will speak to Manchester United, and they will try to work out on a certain fee, maybe 5 million or 10 million, which United will happily agree upon. And if they can get that kind of money from Borussia Dortmund and they get rid of his wages, then I think Sancho will be moving to Borussia Dortmund, which will be a pretty good addition for Borussia Dortmund. And I think that is the only route which I can see for Sancho right now. For Rashford, it's turning out to be pretty difficult because it has been reported that Barcelona are straight away pretty much close in talks with Liverpool. They are working behind the scenes. They really want Luis Diaz, and if they get Luis Diaz, because we do know that Liverpool have paid so much for Florian Wirtz to Bayer Leverkusen, and they need to raise some cash because they want to make more transfer in this very moment. Remember, they have gone for Frimpong. They are in talks with Bournemouth for Gyökeres. If they get Gyökeres and if they get Florian Wirtz, then they need to raise some cash as well. And I think Luis Diaz will get his move to Barcelona. That is what I'm feeling like. If you would have asked me 1 week before, I would have said no. But after they have got Florian Wirtz, I think they need to raise some cash. It's a case of what can Barcelona and Liverpool agree upon. I think they will agree upon the valuation of the player. The payment schedule is going to be the thing which would take a little bit of more time, where Liverpool would say, you know what, we can accept what you're offering to us, but you need to work upon how fast can you pay us in terms of in 3 years' time, maybe in 4 years' time. I think they will look for a 3-year window, and Barcelona will certainly work on that because it has been reported they're no more interested in Nico Williams. Nico Williams is in talks with Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich are really interested in him. Leroy Sané is pretty close to join Galatasaray. If he joins the Turkish side, then what that means is simply that Bayern Munich will be looking for a winger. Remember, Tell moving to Spurs on loan. So Bayern Munich are looking for a winger, and I think Nico Williams might get his move to Germany. He will be playing for the Munich side, and he will be a top player for them. So if Barcelona have cooled their interest in Nico Williams, that means they know for sure that they can get Luis Diaz. It's a case of what fee can be agreed between them. So that means it's a bad news for us in terms of Rashford, because Rashford really wanted that Barcelona move, and if Barcelona go in for Luis Diaz, that means no more Rashford to Barcelona. Then which club would be interested in him? I think, you know, there is a case of that Newcastle United are looking in for some players themselves as well. We do know that Liverpool are interested in Gordon. It's a saga which kinds of turn on and then it turns off. It goes back and forth. But we do know that Newcastle United are looking in for some players, and I won't be surprised if they go in for some special transfers this window. Let's say it has been reported that they're interested in João Pedro of Brighton. So if they go in for João Pedro, there might be a case of them coming in for a winger, and if Rashford is available, he would do a fine job for Newcastle United. Now, would Rashford would want to join Newcastle United? Remember, they're playing in Champions League, so it could be a good case for him to join Newcastle United. He could stay in this country. He could be playing in Premier League. He could be selected by Thomas Tuchel if he plays regularly for Newcastle United. Newcastle United would love to have a premium player such as Rashford, although he isn't been the same since last 2 years. But you never know if he turns up at Newcastle United, wears that black and white, he does score some goal, like 10 plus or maybe 15 plus, gives some assist, runs down that left-hand side of the St. James's Park Stadium. I think, there is still a good amount of football in him. And if he is really hungry in terms of playing at the new club, then he can really bring out those performances that he has shown in his previous years. And Newcastle United would have got a really good player on their hands. And he's English. He would count as a homegrown player as well. So that's a big plus for Eddie Howe's side. So I think there is still some teams which can come in for Rashford. Chelsea, I don't think so. I don't think so Chelsea will be in for Rashford. The club which I can see who would be interested in Rashford are Newcastle United, and the outside chance for me, if you would ask me, will be PSG. But remember, PSG have got so many players on the left-hand side. I don't think so they'll be coming in for Rashford. So only case for him to be playing in the top side is Newcastle United. And I think that would be a very good case for him, Rashford playing for Newcastle United. Now, for Anthony, he'll be joining Real Betis. On a one-year loan. And I think United were looking for a permanent transfer, but for some reason, I don't think so any club has come in for Anthony. They are still not convinced by him. Maybe Anthony, if he plays for Real Betis one season more, then he can take his stock up high. So United might be looking for some of these transfers to take place. I think as for Kobe Mainoo, he'll be staying. For Garnacho, I think United are waiting for the clubs to come in and see what they can bid in for him. So far, this is what it has been reported. Let me see if there's any other news. Right. So that's it, guys. That's what we have in for today. Gyökeres is the main man. Today he has been the talk of the town. And I think it was not expected by anyone that this would happen. But anyway, we are going to wait for tomorrow and see how the story progresses. Is Arsenal really going to bid in for him? And what will United do then? Will they go in for the bidding war? I don't expect United to go in a bidding war, but you never know. They're always unexpected and anything can happen. So I'm sure that you guys would have loved today's episode. Guys, please do subscribe. Please do press the like button as well. And I'm sure that I'll be coming in tomorrow for more latest news on the transfers. So please do give us a follow on Twitter.